Hey, welcome to the Art and Faith podcast. I am delighted today to have some incredible people to introduce. I am here with the leadership team of the Gospel Music Association from Nashville, Tennessee. I have Jackie Patillo, the president, and Justin Fratt, the executive vice president. Guys, welcome to the podcast.
Yay! We're so happy to be here, Jamie.
Thank you. I'm so glad to get to spend time with you guys. We have enjoyed a long and fruitful relationship. Today, you guys are not just people whose mission I'm excited about, but you are personal friends. And so I'm so grateful for the opportunity to have this conversation, to celebrate the work of God in your life, and just to spend time with you guys. Thanks.
Well, we're honored to be here.
Okay. Well, the mission of the Gospel Music Association is to expose, promote, and celebrate the gospel through music. So I want to spend a little bit of time just right off the bat talking about the ways that you fulfill that mission. Could you tell us about some of the things that most people know about you? And then maybe chase that with some of the things that people may not be aware that you do to fulfill that mission.
Most people know us by the Dove Awards. Most people have seen the Dove Awards. This year will be its 54th annual GMA Dove Award. And so we are continuing a legacy. We're standing on the shoulders of a lot of great people that have gone before us. And the Dove Awards is one of the few stages that celebrates God's music with all the genres.
Yeah.
So when people hear the word gospel music, they tend to interpret it through their own experience. The way we interpret gospel music is by the message, not by the style. So at the Dove Awards, you'll hear everything from CCM to Southern gospel, hip hop, rap, the whole gamut.
Wow.
We get to bring together one night for a huge celebration that honors the Lord around the world.
That's amazing. Yeah, 54 years of the Dove Awards. That's incredible. I know you have millions of people view every year, both when it goes out and then as it is syndicated throughout the year. I used to live overseas and I remember watching it on the Armed Forces Network. So it just goes so far and so wide for people. What are some of the other televised kinds of things or regular things that you do throughout the year that people will recognize?
Well, I think like Jackie was talking about, we've learned that in addition to the award show, which for whatever reason, media loves a red carpet and they love a shiny statue. And so that's a tool, that's a platform that we use to garner the attention of the media and the general public. But we've also just learned that now content everywhere is really important to engage people. That's from TikTok to TV. And so as we kind of push forward, we've really been trying to be thoughtful about how do we engage people wherever they are with Christian and gospel music. And so we have what we kind of call 3 tent poles, we focus on Easter, Christmas, and the Dove Awards. And those are times when we feel like culture is maybe more open than usual to some of the Christian themes. And so we create content, like I said, that's usually musical based, but tells a story of the resurrection or the birth and of Christ. And so we do that. We create a TV show. Right now we're partnering with TBN on several of those things. But we also use that, like I said, across a variety of social platforms on YouTube. The artists share it and we engage that. We share it with prisons. We share it on YouTube. And so really, at the end of the day, we want as many people to access that as possible.
I've observed being close to your organization through the years, there are other things that you do behind the scenes. I feel like you serve kind of a role as sort of a chaplain role in the music industry. You are the history keepers of the industry. What are some of those other things and what do they look like that you do that may not be quite so visible?
Well, we're the hub in the center of the wheel. And we're connectors also.
Yeah.
And so we do educational things. So we've got GMA Academy that's on YouTube. Yeah. Right now, we are also a membership organization. And so we encourage people to come be a part of the family, come sit at the table, come let your voice be heard. because the Christian and gospel music community, not only are we spreading the message of Christ, but we're also sitting in an advocacy position when it comes to intellectual property and industry issues.
So there are different ways for different kinds of people to engage with you. So for industry people, you have those kinds of lanes. For fans, you have fan experiences. You have ways to bring them close to the music and help them just learn more about what they enjoy. And I think sometimes people are surprised to know that there is an invitation out there for them through your educational efforts, maybe for them to learn more about the music industry, how they might fit into it, how they might even work in that space as they acquire knowledge and relationship. And then what you just said, your membership organization. So do you have to be nominated for membership? Can people just approach you? What open doors exist there for people who just love music?
Yeah, so we kind of divide our membership into a couple different categories. At the end of the day, we are a trade organization, and so we really focus on the people that make a living in Christian and gospel music. So we typically define that as 51% or more of your income comes from Christian or gospel music.
Great.
And so there's a way that we serve those people that are in it day in, day out. Kind of professional executive level education, networking, as Jackie said, advocacy. But then we also have opportunities for people that have just been impacted by the music. And there's a lot of those people. Before I joined GMA, I was one of those that just knew that worship music moved me and connected me with God. And so we have opportunities for those people that just want to support the mission on a donor basis. But then we also have folks that they feel like, maybe I've got a gift, I've got a talent here, I'm involved with my worship team, I want to learn more, and maybe eventually I'll be a professional. And so we have an opportunity for them to become associate members. And so there's not a professional requirement, but they get access to some of that education and get acquainted with how the industry works. So a lot of different opportunities, people to support, what we call our Dove Club, which is our donor club, and then our associate level, which are folks that feel like maybe there's something more for me here. I want to learn. I want to invest myself. And then we've got the professional level of folks that have dedicated their lives to it. And how do we as an organization help them propel and hopefully get the music out further and faster?
So you mentioned people participating as donors. Does that mean you guys are a 501c?
Yes, 501c3 is our GMA Foundation.
Great.
And then the GMA that we're known for is the 501c6.
Okay. So I think it's important just to highlight that because, every believer has a song
That's right.
stirred their heart, that's tied to a discipleship experience or maybe an experience of the Lord healing something in their heart or revealing understanding. And it's just innate to us. We are a singing people, the people of God. And so we know the value that this has. And I just have a feeling that there are people who will hear this, who want to donate, who want to participate, and maybe they don't know a Christian artist by name, or they don't really know how to connect to a record company. But I just want to highlight that the role that you guys serve can be that point of connection, or can be that place that you are there and you're able for individuals to say, hey, this is something meaningful I want to contribute to, or for corporations or whoever. Is that right?
That's right.
Yeah. And I want to add, Jamie, I was a youth pastor for a while, and I have two small boys now. And so a lot of my passion comes from what I hope the future looks like for them, and the awareness of how much culture impacts their daily lives. And there was kids that were raised up in church. They would sing the worship songs, they would leave and then go listen to, maybe I'm a prude, but kind of horrifying music in their car. And I would go, didn't you know about Lecrae or KB or this alternative music that I feel like disciples them? And they just didn't know. And so I think that there's an opportunity for us as a community to create music that disciples people between Sundays. And what the GMA does is to invest in that every day, all day. And so donors, people that believe, that want that for their kids, that want that for their youth group, I feel like they should support for those reasons, because we're talking about something that impacts culture and impacts lives in greater ways than we think about a lot of times.
And you guys there are are in your position really to bring that awareness. So you are a perfect point of intersection to meet with that desire to make sure that people are exposed to what exists for them. Let's talk a little bit about where you just went, the divide between sacred and secular music. So of course there are artists every few years that break out of those categories, and they live on both charts, and everybody knows them, whether they know Jesus or not. They know that artist, and their songs become part of their life. Some music, it's made for the church. It's pointed at the church, and it's not really meant to do that. But a lot of music's just great music. Maybe it mentions faith, mentions Jesus, but he's part of reality, so it's only natural that music would mention him. I am surprised that more songs don't cross over, as we tend to say, or go more broadly into all markets. Maybe it's because of marketing, other things that go on behind the scenes, how those songs are launched. But I'm just curious what you guys think about that.
That's a big question, because I think it's spiritual. Because it is amazing what breaks through and what doesn't.
Yes.
And so I don't think that it's completely an issue of marketing. I believe that God breaks through what he wants to. And we saw that with I Can Only Imagine. Yeah. Right? In a big, big way. And so, gosh, back when I was growing up, it was like, oh, happy day. There was so many songs, like you said, that pop through that the world just has to hear and they embrace.
We hope you're enjoying the Art and Faith podcast, brought to you by Five Talents Fund. I think that's a good perspective. I know there's no formula for it. Just like there's no formula for an individual. You can have a desire for God to use you. You can be pure in heart. You can surrender your life to him. And there's no obligation for him to say, now that you've checked those boxes, I'm going to propel you forward into your dreams, right? Maybe he will, maybe he won't. He's God. He does as he wills. So that answer makes sense to me, that he does as he wills with content.
And Jamie, maybe some of what maybe I sense that you were maybe asking about too, certainly marketing does play into a lot of what catches on. And, you see things, probably the most recent example has been Lauren Daigle really catching on, kind of a mainstream component. And I know their team was very thoughtful about how do we feel like this music has an opportunity to quote unquote cross over in a way that maybe not all songs can. And so they did work with, they partnered with kind of a more mainstream label for those relationships. They marketed it to radio. They made that spend. It's an incredible investment to do that. And so it does take courage and investment for that to work also. And again, it doesn't always work, but that it takes a significant resource to just say, we think this has a chance, and kind of take the gamble, because then you're competing against an even larger pool of artists, whether that's country or just mainstream. There's so many people that are competing for traditionally that radio space, but even now, that playlist spot. And so I think playlist does open up more options, but there's just so much music. There's so much out there. So it's that differentiator. How are we kind of setting this apart? How are we making people aware? And so, in addition to, oftentimes we see God just kind of miraculously pull something out. There are lots of people that are working really, really hard to figure out, how do we just make people aware of this, because the message will catch when they're given that opportunity.
Yeah,
that's well said.
What both of you said paints a really complete picture. I appreciate that. You teed up beautifully for me there, Justin, a rant that I like to go on. So I'm just going to take this moment to go on that rant. Our organization behind the podcast, Five Talents Fund, serves people in 5 areas of the arts: film and TV, theater, social media, music, and visual art. Across all of those, something is true that you just highlighted. I always say this: if you give a creative $1, they'll spend the whole dollar making the art, and position themselves in if you build it, they will come kind of a way. And I appreciate that you just highlighted that it is a significant investment to send something. It's a significant team that does that can prepare that. Of course, the Lord can make exceptions and can carry anything anywhere he wants by means we will never understand. But the common methodology of that, where we have, well-laid highways and railroads and delivery systems to people, it's a real thing. Have you guys seen an improvement in the music industry in the years that you've been there, in those delivery systems and in marketing, in carrying things to radio, in the investment? Is that an area of growth that you're observing?
For me, honestly, I have not that I'm blaming anybody, because I understand financially why that is such a gamble.
Yeah.
So at one point, most of our labels were, I guess, independently owned and operated. Sparrow, Word, all those were their own entities, and they could kind of do however the founder pleased.
Yeah, they were nimble.
Over time, those got sold to Universal, Sony. I'm trying to think of some of the others, at Warner at one point. And so there are lots and lots of ministry-minded people that have to balance the financial aspect of this with their parent companies.
Yeah.
And so it creates a really challenging dynamic. And there's just some artists that have different opportunities because of who they are.
Yeah.
And don't necessarily always understand that, but someone like a Cece has incredible opportunity, and she's such a great advocate for the genre and for the gospel, period, the good news. She is someone that has favor with people. And so I think I don't know if I answered all of your question, but it's a challenging one to balance with the fact that it is a business a lot of times.
I think you guys are in a really great seat to just observe what's true. You're not necessarily prescribing how you wish things were or forecasting how they might be. You're just describing what you see, and your perspective is valuable to hear. And I thank you for that. Jackie, you touched early in your description of what you do as an organization on the fact that the message is what unites gospel music. So all these different genres. I think the Dove Awards is so fun to watch because it's just so much diversity of people, of age, of personality, of even the way that they express what they know about the Lord because of different denominational backgrounds, and then certainly of musical style. I think it's just one of the most fun shows, but then there's this beautiful thread of agreement running through it, and of unity. And I feel like in some ways, if we could just all sit in the Dove Awards all the time, the world would be a better place. You guys have cultivated a beautiful thing there. I just wonder how you steward that opportunity in other ways, through creating relationship, maybe through gathering people. What can you teach us about that?
Well, unity is not easy. And God has designed this diverse kingdom.
Yeah.
And one of the last words of Jesus is that they would be one, like the Father and I are one. And so at the GMA, we are very intentional in every program, in every event, in every panel, in every educational tool that we do, that everybody is valued and honored and heard, and that others are able to hear in their own style the love of God, because that's what it's all about. We're casting a net. Music is casting a net of the love of God, of His power and His grace, His peace, His comfort. And it's done in many different styles. And it's a beautiful thing when we can all come together and agree that Jesus is Lord.
Sometimes I wish just for more people to be able to see the behind the scenes snapshots at your events, because you don't always see in gatherings of people of faith, young and old, black and white, Asian and Hispanic, rapper and Southern gospel, just chatting it up, taking selfies, hanging out. It's a good thing to lay eyes on.
Yeah, and because we're very genre specific people. I mean, your radio stations are genre specific. The way people hear and enjoy their music is often Justin's one of the few people that I know that, loves classical and rap. I mean, not very many people tune in to diverse music. Mm-hmm. And so I always tell people when they come to the Dove Awards, if you didn't particularly like that song, just give me 3 minutes.
Yeah, hang in there.
Something will come up that you will connect with. And I'll never forget, a couple of years ago, one of our board members brought some older friends with her. And after hearing KB's acceptance speech at this Dove Award, makes me want to cry right now just thinking about it. After hearing the producer talk about who he was versus who he is now. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the fact that people in all sectors of the world, that God has a song for them that can change their life. My board member told me afterwards, she said, my friend said that he didn't like rap. He never did. But now he understands.
And that's how we learn to value one another, through exposure, through understanding, and through sharing time together. Yeah, you guys do a beautiful job of setting that table. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Five Talents Fund is glad to bring you the Art and Faith podcast. At Five Talents Fund, we make good things go further, faster.
Jackie's been at GMA for coming up on 11 years, right? August, 11 years, 12. And so when she entered in, we both had, I'll call it an opportunity, to come into an organization that was fractured and was not united. And so I don't want to downplay the fact that it takes, like Jackie said, a lot of work to unify. And something that she's done so wonderfully and it's a continuous effort, is engaging people, pulling people in, and having the conversation, reminding them of the macro of here's why we're doing this, and because like she said, it's not a natural thing for people. Seemingly, it doesn't seem to be something that we gravitate towards the familiar. And so to create that atmosphere, it takes us even thinking about our crew and thinking about how are we writing the script, and have we talked to that label executive that has influence over whether or not artists are going to engage. And that, I don't mean that to sound political, except it just takes buy-in for the whole community to see that. And then when we get there, the artists seemingly they just appreciate art. They can appreciate, I don't listen to Southern gospel, but I love 4-part harmony. That's incredible, or that's, we had Bart, who from Mercy Me, who wrote I Can Only Imagine. He got to experience Tamala Mann, who is a icon in gospel and a huge voice. She sang his song and he had never met her, and he was floored by that. And so creating that opportunity for intersection also grows affinity, I think. And so we create that place where there's a little bit of discomfort. And by the end of the night, there's a feeling of we're on the same team. And like Jackie said, even if I don't listen to you on a regular basis, I have a newfound appreciation for what you're doing with your art and how you're investing in the kingdom. So I think it is a constant work. It's a constant work.
There's something very right and authentic about our Southern gospel groups being Southern gospel.
Right.
It's very right for our rappers to be authentic and innovative in their style of music. And so, I've heard much criticism about how Sunday morning is segregated. This is the most segregated day of the week. However, it is so right to be authentic, and it takes being true to yourself and your culture and your craft and your talent to be to thine own self be true.
Yeah.
And to not homogenize.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, as my background was in A&R, and people are drawn to innovative, authentic music.
Yes.
Whether it's mainstream or sacred.
Yes.
And it's a beautiful thing when you see people coming together, bringing their piece, bringing the part that they play.
Yeah, I really appreciate you highlighting that. I think there is a place and a time for the ways in which we are distinct.
That's
to
right.
preserve and to strengthen and to celebrate those things. And then there is certainly a time to come together.
That's right.
So, gosh, just listening to you guys, thinking about what you're saying, I'm really struck by how God appoints people for times and places and seasons and tasks in his wisdom. Even when we were praying before we started, hit the record button, I was thinking about having the opportunity a dozen years ago to pray with you guys and kind of where the industry was then, where your organization was then, and just how faithful God has been. I won't name them all now, but they're running through my head, the specific things that we've asked him for, the bridges that he's been asked to build. And it's just fun to sit with you guys and say, look how much he's done. There's more to do, but look how much he's done. And I just want to not miss the opportunity to thank him for that. And as I'm with you, just to acknowledge that, because it's a very sweet thing. And I believe that he sent each of you and the two of you together to steward this time in this community. And I'm very grateful for you. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, we talk about this every week with our team. You know, in this essence, we think about the Old Testament when they came through and they would build the altar to remember what God had done. And so I think we almost do it every week just because we're reminded when we see our team come together.
Yeah.
Because there was a time when there was no team and we had to kind of do it all. And it was, we did the best we could. But to now have these experts and to know that we've got the support of the industry, I feel like every week we just say, man, I'm so grateful for your gifts. I'm so grateful that you're passionate about this. I'm so grateful that God has provided this opportunity, and so there really is something to that, building the altar of remembering from whence we have come. And it gives you that courage to then say, this isn't it. We're going to keep pressing forward into the promised land, but it's going to take more battles and more claiming that because he goes before us, but he doesn't necessarily make the path completely clear. Mm-hmm. And so
just a step at a time, right, Justin?
That's right.
Yeah.
To see just one step.
That's right.
Just a little quote that says, people of vision get there twice, once in their minds and then in reality. I have found how the power of our team is built. It's a team of leaders that are called and dedicated to the mission. And so, although we may be small, there's a mightiness that we've seen work through each and every one because of the call and because of the commitment.
And that's a great quote. I feel like if I was a tattoo person, that'd be a tattoo for me. People of vision get there twice. That's good. I have a little section kind of when I interview people that you guys just sort of did without me asking. I always say, oh, we've talked about art, but this is the Art and Faith podcast. And how has faith played a journey and what have you learned? And the theme that's emerging in these conversations is that it comes down to remembering. both remembering what God has done before our time by knowing his word and calling those things to mind, but also just remembering our own journey, our own answered prayers, the knowledge, the understanding, the care that we've seen, and then recalling it to one another and saying, he got us this far. It's like the hymn that you quoted for us, Jackie, and he'll bring us all the way home. Remembering is so important with faith. Yeah.
And we are, and he knows how fickle we are. We are a fickle people. Mm-hmm. That's why we have to be in the Word constantly, and that's why we need to be surrounded with solid community, because we do need to be reminded of his goodness.
The scriptures talk about the testimony of our faith. The stories encourage us and spur us on to move forward. And I remember as a young Italian kid with my family sitting around the table and my great aunts talking about how God provided for them and how the money would show up in the mailbox or someone at church would slip them, and it's like, I remember even as a kid walking away and being like, that's the miracles. It's such a hard thing for us. It doesn't feel like a normal everyday thing. And so when we're reminded, no, this is not, we don't live in the mundane. Mm-hmm. We live in a spiritual realm, and God is moving constantly around us. And so don't forget to look for that. Don't forget to expect that. And when he has promised something that seems impossible, we keep pressing forward one step at a time. Because just like we talked about the promised land earlier, I don't know why that keeps coming up, but it is that vision thing where it just seems like there's so many roadblocks, and I'm an operations person, so I see all the hurdles. But the story of the promised land is that they had to conquer each place along the way, and there was giants over here, and there was an army over here, and it was always God was going to say, here's how you're going to win this battle. If you will listen to me and obey, you will get this accomplished. Yeah. And then it's on to the next battle, and you're going to conquer this by doing this. And, so it's not at all easy, but I think we are constantly reminding ourselves that to get there is oftentimes a battle.
Just keeping it really real. So you guys are in a nonprofit setting. I'm out here in a nonprofit setting, and there's a dependency on other people to come and join Vision. There's always a question of, will we have the means to do the thing that we feel called to do? That's just an ongoing thing. And so as I'm listening to you talk about money showing up in the mailbox and remembering the miracles and experiencing the miracles, sometimes when I pray, I'm like, God, can we just, would it be cool if we just got to a place where you just dumped a big pile of money on this, and then I could quit thinking about that and focus more on the actual work? And he's heard me. He's heard you. He's heard every creative that prays that prayer. He's heard every family that prays that prayer. And I think his answer is, I could do that, but I'm choosing to move a different way. And I think that may be a gift. I think living through those miracles, walk into the mailbox, finding the answer, that may be his best answer. And I'm just reminded of that as I'm hearing what you guys are saying. I want to ask you guys one last question. As you are people of vision who get there twice, what dreams and visions do you have out on the horizon that you're looking forward to? What is in the future for GMA?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because we are very excited. Right now, we are working toward what we're calling the Dove Center, a gospel music experience, which will not only be a museum that shares the history of our music and our Hall of Famers, but it'll also be a creative incubator with writers' rooms and recording studios so that we can serve our members and be a creative hub, so to speak. And so we are in negotiations on the space in Nashville, putting a stake in the ground right here in Music City. And we are looking for supporters for that project. And it's very exciting. Zach Womp, the chairman of the Gospel Music Foundation, is heading up that project. And the future is bright.
Yeah.
People hear about gospel music museum or center, they make the assumption that one exists already.
Yeah.
And it doesn't.
What a great opportunity for you guys to steward that and to be able to celebrate and promote and expose the past and the present and the future through that work. That's really exciting. Maybe the Lord has it wired so that somebody's listening and they're thinking, I wonder if that's something that the Lord has for me to do with what he's given me. I'm just going to say, yes. This is your sign. Reach out. There are no mistakes when the Lord makes connections. So yeah, we'll see what he does. I think that is so amazing, Jackie, and I can't wait to see that become real and to stand in it and cheer for you and celebrate with you as you guys cut that ribbon in the near future. I want to thank you so much, Jackie, Justin. I want to thank you for your work and for your heart, for your care for people, for the way that you have persisted in faith and allowed God to use you, and for your time today and joining me in the podcast.